waiting for me tonight. I spent the last week running from the heat, but the beat beats coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my right?
Hello, wackos. Welcome to another episode of Without a Country. I am Corinne Fisher. I feel like now I can't hear myself in the microphone. I'm never happy with the sound. Like the music was so loud in my ears, but now I can't hear the sound of my own voice, which is truly my favorite part of this show. It's only fun when that's no that yeah, now I can hear it. Maybe down a pinch. Hello. That's perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. Wow, guys, what a show we have today, and what a day I have had. I just remembered a lighthearted story that I wanted to add to the show. Sorry, right as we were coming up, because it's a heavy, there's heavy stuff happening in America. So I just wanted to give you guys something a little bit light to chew on, and I think this story is super light. Okay, cool. I mean, not super late for the people who are a part of it, but super late for us. All right, here we go. All right, so welcome to the show. What a week it's been. It's only Wednesday, but it feels like it's a day that doesn't exist yet. So welcome to the show. Let's do a little update. I was in Palm Springs this past weekend for a wedding. That's the only time that I am allowing myself to step away from the campaign. It was a promise I made to my boyfriend a long time ago, and I made good on it, because that's the kind of person I am, and that's the kind of mayor I'm going to be. But yeah, it was lovely. It's super kitschy. Average age in Palm Springs, I would say, is 72, which is great. I loved it. We ate a lot of good stuff, and the wedding was beautiful. And we went to hiked through Indian Canyon. That's nice. Love that. Love when there's outdoor stuff to do. So we had a good time. Went on the tram, up in the air, bumpy, cold, fun. Liked it. That's my review of Palm Springs. Would I go back? Yeah, I liked it. I'm into it. Make it easier to get to, though. That's my one note on Palm Springs. And then let's get into what I did for mayor stuff this week. Then I flew back and right away into mayor stuff. And let me tell you, there's nothing like dealing with a bunch of angry New Yorkers who are mad that you even want to attempt to be mayor after sleeping upright for 3 hours on two separate planes. That's really when I was a little girl, I said, I hope when I grow up, I can sleep upright for 2 sets of 3 hours and then have people yell at me for trying to fight for them to have a better city. That's what I was really hoping for. Here we are. Oh man, I don't even know what is going on right now. Here's the notes that I wrote. I took notes on this experience that I had because I had to share it with you. So I've been doing a lot of like one-on-one, not one-on-one, but like small, obviously I'm going to talk to like a lot of small groups, and happy to do it. That's what I offered to do. And I'm going to talk about an experience I had. And I think the person who organized this listens to one or both of my shows. And please, this is no reflection on you. I still really appreciate the opportunity. It just made me laugh. Obviously, I expect discourse to sometimes get heated when you're dealing with someone who is running for a political office. I've experienced it many times before. Totally fine. I don't expect people to just roll out the red carpet and be like, you know what? The moment you walked in here, I thought this bitch should be mayor. Like, I don't expect that at all. I'm prepared for it. I'm ready for it. I feel like I can engage in conversations, and even when people get mad at me, it doesn't make me angry at them. I understand that people are angry in general, and sometimes I am going to be the punching bag for that anger. And I acknowledge that, and that's totally fine. But I had a situation where I was talking to a lot of people who I don't know what their background is, but I think that, they have a certain level of privilege. I think they're, living a relatively nice life in the same way that I am living a relatively nice life, and I know that. And it was a conversation, and they were very politically informed people, but it was this kind of problem I keep coming up against, and it's specifically in conversations with liberals. And part of the reason that on this show I have called myself for many years a liberal gone rogue, where I'm presenting things that I think pretty much we should all be on a consent, like in agreement that we need to take care of as a government, as a community, and like the response when you really boil it down from people is like, yeah, but what about me? And there's been a what about me mentality. And I don't mean what about me, like what about my people, like what about women, or like what about Black people, or what about Indigenous people? I mean quite literally, what about me personally? So you're running for a public office and people are asking like, what are you going to do about the pipe that's leaking in my apartment on 22nd Street? I got to be honest, that's not like a direct mayoral issue. And so there was like multiple instances of this in the conversation. I wrote them down. So we were talking about housing. And so I'm talking about how, 100,000, over 100,000, but estimated 100,000 New Yorkers don't have homes, are unhoused, right? So I think that is a crisis that should be at the top of the agenda for whoever the incoming mayor is. When people don't have homes, that's like one of the basic needs and human rights that you have as a person existing on the planet, and certainly in New York City. And so I'm talking about that and talking about how we can get more affordable housing. And, people's eyes are kind of glossing over. And then the person's like, yeah, but like this apartment that I have is like $3,500. And I think that's like too much for an apartment in this space with this amount of rooms. Okay. I hear you. And I agree that like the rent is too damn high, to quote a former mayoral candidate. But like we can't elect people if the only question that we're going to ask is, but what about me? Especially when you're a group of people who are doing relatively well. Again, I don't know like the specific. I didn't ask everyone for their tax forms, but I just am using context clues to assess how generally how people are doing. I think we can all agree if if all of our rents were lower, that would be better. That's just better, right? But like, is this something that is like actively not allowing you to live in the city? And like, are you a native New Yorker? Like, what is no is the answer. Then the second one is like, okay, well, what's your background in politics? I don't have a background in politics. My background is in advocacy and nonprofit. Okay, well, your background should be in this because this is what I have chosen to do with my time to contribute to society. Okay, again, so like it's not that I am someone who wasn't participating actively in society. I absolutely was actively participating in society, but not in the way that you personally, literally one individual person, thought I should be participating in society, because that's the way that person was participating in society. And they had a completely different experience participating in politics than I have been having. So I go, I don't know what politics you were participating in, but it's not the same New York City politics that I know. Again, okay. And then there was another instance where I'm talking about the NYPD, right? I've talked about this, I think, on here, that, one of the main things that I think will help increase safety in New York City is we got to mend the relationship between the NYPD and New Yorkers, right? I think we went through liberals' attempt at defund the police. That really did not work, guys. That one, defund the police, really backfired. And so we've come to a basic consensus as a community for most people that there is a place for police officers, and we need police officers, right? And so But I also acknowledge that much of the public is very distrusting of police officers. And I think police officers have come to have a bit of a fuck you attitude. Like, we're not going to serve and protect you because you don't respect us. Okay. Problems on both ends. I get that. And I noticed on the subway that they're having a hard time getting people to sign up for the police force, and they're advertising that a rookie cop makes a little bit over $55,000 and change a year. That's the starting salary, and they're advertising that like that's good. Like, to live in New York City on $55,000 a year and also be putting your life at risk, in my opinion, is fucking crazy. And so I brought that up. I just brought that up in general. I didn't say police officers deserve more money than any other type of work, and policing is the hardest type of work there is. But I mean, I think that I think there has to be some kind of general recognition that at most jobs, you don't have a serious risk of being shot in the fucking face. That's not like on the table for most occupations. Like, can we not all agree on that? Like, I know we live in America, right? But like, this is not like something that most people worry about when they go to work. I would argue, like, I would argue a teacher can even make this argument to me, and believe me, teachers going to be getting paid a lot in Corinne Fisher's New York City. I love teachers. Teachers need to be one of the highest paid jobs in America. I'm saying it right now. But yeah, so I was having that conversation. And then this person's response was kind of like, yeah, but I have this occupation, and it's a noble occupation for sure, and an underpaid occupation. But they go, I do this occupation. I do this service for the city, and we're underpaid too. And I go, it's really hard. And I've had this complaint before about liberals, when we're trying to under the umbrella of like stopping injustices, right? I've had this problem before, on this podcast and on GWF, where I'm spending time. I think I experienced this when we're talking about Black Lives Matter, right? So we're having a conversation about how, all these injustices against Black people. And I get an email that's like, yeah, but what about Indigenous people? Like, that was like a real email I got. I go, yeah, that too. But like, that's just not what we were talking about at the moment. And so I constantly find on the left that we say we're the party of empathy, and we're the party of diversity and equality and inclusion and all these things, and that, love is going to win, and love is love, and love always takes precedence, whatever the fucking Taylor Swift like motto that we've chosen for our party that's going to be ineffective for that week. Just a little heart with a smiley face in it, and a donkey winking at you. I don't know, whatever the Democratic Party pulled out of their ass that week to be ineffective and mean nothing. I just come across this time and time again. It's like we pretend to be so caring. Our hearts are bleeding for everybody else. But when I sit down and I have a conversation and I say, yeah, like, these are things that I think are pressing issues for people who I think we can all agree, if you don't have a fucking house, you're doing worse than mostly everyone, and we really need to take care of that. And that's a really poor reflection on us as a society, that we're not all going, oh my God, 100,000 people don't have fucking houses. Let's fix this immediately. When I am talking to you, and your response when I'm saying 100,000 people don't have houses and we should take care of that immediately, and your response to me is, yeah, but my rent in I'm not going to say the specific neighborhood that they live in my one of the bougier neighborhoods in New York City is too expensive for what I'm getting. I don't know where to go from there. And I'm not saying this like to just shit on people. I'm just saying this because it's like, are we the party of empathy? I'm really, really, really beginning to question that. And again, I didn't like, I would say this was a group that was like kind of hostile towards me. And then that's okay. I signed up for this. It was a little unexpected because of this kind of space that I was walking into. But again, no shade if the person who set this up is listening. I really do appreciate this. This is the kind of stuff I need to be doing. And it's stuff I've experienced many times before throughout this short yet tumultuous process. But if we're going to be so angry all the time as liberals, are we only going to be angry on behalf of ourselves? Because that's exactly what we shit on Republicans for all the time. You only vote thinking about yourself. Oh, you're not thinking about gay people, and you're not thinking about immigrants, and you're like, well, the conversation I had last night was exactly that. It was exactly that. It was a why not me conversation from liberals. From people who honestly probably might even sit further left than me. And I just walked away and I go, like, what do I even do from there? How do I even handle that? I don't know the answer, but it was disturbing. And I go, well, I just experienced in real time a short film called Why Liberals Stay Losing. I experienced it in real time, as witnessed by yours truly, Corinne Fisher. And I would like to change that. And that's why I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there because I don't want to stay losing. I don't want to stay losing, but we have to present different ideas. And so is your different idea just the exact same thing that we just wagged our fingers at the Republicans for voting for? Because that's what they voted for. They voted for why not me? That's literally why Donald Trump won. Why not me? Because these people feel overlooked. And so are you not just saying with this conversation that you too also feel overlooked? So where's the empathy? Where's the empathy for, and these are not, and like, I just didn't know these are not people who struggle to pay their rent. Maybe they struggle to pay their rent in the type of building that they want to live in, but in general, don't struggle to pay their rent. I know they don't. I just don't know. And it's like, we talk so much, we're on the right side of history and we know all the right stuff and we make all the right choices. And like, I got to be honest, these conversations that I've been having with people on the left, like I don't know that we're the party that we think we are. I really don't know that we are. And I find that deeply disturbing. Deeply disturbing. So that's my piece of running for mayor this week. But if you have a small event, you let me know. We'll come down. My voice is like damaged from all the talking I've done this week. All right. On that note, we have another critical financial deadline coming up on March 31st, and I gotta pay more staff. Exciting news though. Really cool stuff. We hit $100,000. We got mentioned in the New York Times, the Daily News. I did my first mayoral forum on Monday on land preservation, which, if I had a list of things that I wanted my first mayoral forum to be about, I wouldn't have selected land preservation. That was not something I was spending a lot of time thinking about. But I have some notes for myself, but overall, I was happy with my performance for my first one on a topic that is not a main pillar of my platform. And I have another one on environmental issues coming up, specifically environmental justice. And we keep trucking along. I have some press and, good stuff coming. Again, really put it into perspective. I've only been mentioned in politics since January 31st, and it's March 26th. I think we're moving in the right direction, but we definitely need to keep getting donors. So please, this is my plea to you. If you're a New York City resident, if you're anyone, please donate something. If everyone listening donated something, it would be amazing. But specifically, if you're a New York resident, $10, just a $10 donation. So helpful. It needs to be at least $10 because that's how much it has to be matchable by public funds. But I have until April 28th to make this. So call a friend in New York. And people have actually been doing that. I called someone to thank them today, and they said, my cousin lives in Massachusetts, but she called me because I live in New York, and she told me to donate to you. So thank you. That's the kind of energy we need. That is grassroots. That's us all doing this together. And it really is possible. There's another candidate who's running who everyone laughed at that candidate too. And he just like mobilized again, has like an entire other party behind him. That's another story though. But you still need individual people to mobilize, and they're mobilizing for that specific, party. So that's exciting. Like we really do. Again, I'm going to say it every week. We as the people have the power. And that's why I get so mad, when we can't just agree, like, here are a couple of things we need to handle as a party first. And one of them I would say is getting people who aren't in houses. What would Jesus do? All right, let's move on to my enemy of the state this week. I have an enemy of the state that you're not going to expect, right? Because she's actually one of my favorite people in politics. But I'm mad at her this week, okay? My enemy of the state this week is, gasp, Jasmine Crockett.
Enemy of the state.
Who is also my favorite politician. And I want to make that very clear. My favorite. I love Jasmine Crockett. But we don't even need to read the whole article. They covered it in Politico and they got mad at her on The View and stuff. But like this woman, she called Texas Governor Greg Abbott. She referred to him as Hot Wheels. He's in a wheelchair if you don't know. She referred to him as Hot Wheels. And I'm mad at her, but I'm not mad at her for being ableist. I'm mad at her because I've been calling Governor Greg Abbott, and I think on this show, and definitely in Texas, anytime I do stand up, I call him Wheels. I've been calling this man Wheels for years. That's how I refer to him. And it is not hateful. It's hilarious, okay? When someone is a bad person, I disagree. I think you can make fun of anything about them, okay? Stop. This inability that the left has, like we go, well, you can't talk about someone's looks and you can't call someone fat. If they're taking rights away from people, make fun of whatever part of them you want to. Stop being a baby, okay? We need to bring back a little bit of bullying on the left because right now we're just getting bullied and it's not working. And so we're being ineffective and we're also getting bullied and everyone is laughing at us. Everyone's laughing at us. Is that what you want to be? You want to be the party that everyone's laughing at? No. I'm mad at Jasmine Crockett because I've been calling Governor Greg Abbott Wheels for ages. And it every time was hilarious. And every time people in Austin, so I'm not talking about the outskirts of Texas, in Austin, I know you guys are, we're liberals in the middle of a cesspool. Okay, well, you've been laughing at that joke every time I said it. Comedy festivals, private shows, the whole shebang. It's funny. Greg Abbott sucks. Hot Wheels is a nice name for him. That's hilarious that Jasmine Crockett said it. Like, and it's like, we can't pick and choose. Like, what, right? Like, what we like about Jasmine Crockett is that she talks like a regular person. And so a regular person in the privacy of their own home is going to call Greg Abbott Hot Wheels and everyone's going to laugh. And don't pretend you're not. Again, like this, like pretending to be like holier than thou, that we never make fun of anybody and that you never call anyone fat behind their backs or say they suck or like say their hair is stupid or say that their pants are too tight. You're lying to yourself. Look at your group chat with your closest friends. That's who you really are. You're a dirty piece of shit, and so am I. You know what? But we can still provide housing for the people who live in this damn country. And Greg Abbott, we should all call Greg Abbott Hot Wheels. And not even, minus the hot, though. That's why I just called him Wheels. Hilarious. Get your stick out of your ass and start creating policy that actually works, Democrats. You're pissing me the fuck off right now. Oh, my God. Ugh. Liberal cities provide less affordable housing for people than Republican cities. That's a hot fact that I've been researching all week. I'm going to make more content about it. But so I heard that it's just kind of like a blip, and I go, ugh, is this something that is just like kind of floating around like in the ether this week? Research. No, it's 100% true. And it's because we love rules. We got a zone for this we got a zone because a dog once stepped here and we don't want to insult animals. But then we got a zone away from here. We can't build housing here because a plant that only exists in 2 cities that is living in a crack here. And then we got a zone here because someone can't hear above a decibel of 50. I don't understand decibels. here because they have a sensitive ear, and they have a note from their doctor that says I have a sensitive ear, and it would be ableist if we built a building there. And then we also can't build it here because there was another building that was once there that was like very important. So we just have to that's just kind of sacred ground that we just have to look at the concrete. That's fucking being liberal. Okay? I understand that rules need to exist, and obviously things have to be safe. But you know what's not safe? Living not in a house. Living outside as a human, not even safe for many animals. Sir, we get outraged when we see a dog living in a doghouse in a backyard. Why don't we bring back the same energy for humans? Okay, it's a big problem. If you see a human not living in a house, that's a pressing issue.
I mean, it's also a money issue.
What's a money issue for what?
I mean, there's studies dating back to 2017 that say costs are reduced on average by about 49.5% if you just house them instead of relying on homeless services, emergency services.
Oh, you're saying
shelters.
It's cheaper to just give them houses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It would just, hurt the housing market. So that would be... You know what I mean? You're just adding more houses.
Well,
to the
yeah.
market,
And then, and this reminds me of an article that me and Christina were talking about actually earlier this week that, who did it? Maybe the Atlantic, called The Poor Door. And it's about how, the poor door is a colloquial term for when there's a housing development that has a separate entrance for people who have less expensive apartments. And it gives the building a tax break, but it's also extremely classist and quite frankly unacceptable in my opinion. I don't care if it's giving you a tax. And I babysat a kid who lived in a place that had a poor door, but I think the poor door was just for delivery people. And I remember first of all not even understanding what it was as a concept. I was probably in my early 20s. I had never even heard of such a thing. I was appalled. And then I just started sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, is this if this is what being wealthy is, I don't want to be this. And I remember going to this separate door to greet the guy who was delivering the kids that I was babysitting for food. And I felt so terrible. I was just like, the fuck? I wasn't going to interview the guy about it. I'm probably overthinking it way more than he is, but I'm just sitting how much this guy feel? When he goes in the front door and the guy goes, oh, you got to go around to this other entrance because you're an untrustworthy human. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So I think it may have been the New Yorker. There's a couple articles about it. The New Yorker had an article from 2016 called "The Poor Door and the Glossy Reconfiguration of City Life." So I guess it was the 2016 article because it looks like a couple other places have picked it up. But yeah. That's just it's if you're voting progressive, but you live in a place that has a poor door and you're not one of the people using the poor door and you're okay with that and that doesn't bother you and you never said anything about that, are you progressive? I just don't know anymore. What does being liberal mean anymore? Because I'm actually pretty confused. Shout out to all my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting the show. I love you guys. I love the Without a Country community. You guys seriously rule. Special shout out to our dictator, Hannah Pendergrass. You are always holding it down here on Without a Country. And again, obviously, if you want the content from Without a Country, I'm going to keep making it from you. And you guys have been really loyal to keeping your Patreon memberships. But also, if you only have one way that you can donate, please head over to CorinneFisher.com and click on that donate button so I can continue expanding my team. We're almost done with petitioning, but we had to really increase our staff for petitioning because it was such a wild undertaking. And so I hired a lot of extra staff, which means great. You hired a lot, you're giving a lot, putting a lot of money in young, hungry, motivated people's pockets, but it's not free. So thank you to everyone who has contributed. This is from the Wacko mailbag. This is from Wacko Jana. Hi, Corinne. Longtime wacko and fucker here. I'll just get right into it. I was talking to my therapist and expressing my never-ending feeling of hopelessness about the state of politics. I want to take action, but I have so much going on right now with family, health, and work, and don't have much energy I can give to society without putting myself in an even worse spot mentally. She told me about a website called fivecalls.org, and I think we've talked about it on this show before. Like, I'm definitely familiar with it. I think we talked about it a while back, but I thought, always good time for a refresh that I wanted to share with you. It has a list of 43 active topics, and that's as of March 20th, so that'll fluctuate a little bit, that you can call and talk to your state representatives about. When you put in your location, it will give you the names of your representatives and the phone numbers for their offices. There is a brief explanation about each initiative, as well as a template for what you can say when you call. They explain that calling is the most effective way to ensure your representative hears you before they take a public stance, because emails, faxes, and letters take time to be sorted, processed, and read. Congressional staffers are able to tally phone calls as they come in, which is like such an easy way, because these people want to be reelected, right? They don't want you to hate them. They want you to donate to their campaigns, and they want to be reelected, and they want to be able to, step up the ladder to go to the next thing. So they really are listening when you call, because they know, again, it's reciprocal. There's a reciprocity there. They're going to need something. It's transactional. But they're like, okay, well, I have a better chance of getting money and a vote for this person if I do the thing that most of the people want. Pure math here. So if there's something that you want, call them and talk to them about it. And I love that they're, there's a staffer and they're tallying. So, and it's easier for, making a phone call. As millennials, we sometimes forget this because of the anxiety angle of the phone call. But when you really break it down time-wise, making a phone call is much faster than sending an email. The topics are mostly in opposition of the Trump administration, but no matter your political views, it's a great resource for those who want to help but don't know where to start. Hopefully this helps some people feel a little less powerless like it did for me. Thank you for everything you do and sharing what goes on behind the doors of running for office. Corinne Fisher for mayor, Jana. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So again, if you guys want to do that, it's fivecalls.org. And then we have one other piece from the Wacko mailbag. This is from Wacko Michelle. It's a piece of positive news from Kentucky. And I said, you know what? We need some positive news from Kentucky. So I'm going to share this with everyone. So this is from WLKY.com, what's the symbol? This is CBS, right? This is just like some kind of a CBS affiliate. So this says, Kentucky bill requiring financial literacy classes signed into law. The bill, which has passed both the House and Senate, now awaits the governor's signature to become law. Meanwhile, students at Jeffersontown High School are already experiencing the advantages of financial literacy education. House Bill 342 aims to make financial literacy a required course for incoming high school freshmen. The bill was signed into law by Governor Andy Beshear on Monday. However, students at Jeffersontown High School were already experiencing the advantages of financial literacy education. For the past 3 years, teacher Clay Moody has led financial literacy classes, equipping students with knowledge about managing money. These students learn a lot of things in high school, math, English, science, but historically, they haven't learned a lot about money, Moody said, which is crazy because we live in a capitalist society. Topics range from understanding credit versus debit cards to managing insurance. Moody said that the class prepares students for real-life financial decisions. It is personal finance. I give them a lot of information, but at the end of the day, they have to decide how to handle their finances. It's not always a perfect right or wrong answer, Moody said. Students are implementing what they learn, even beginning to invest, which I love, especially for women who statistically are less likely to invest because there's risk involved. I found out I was eligible for a CD, which is a certificate of deposit where I can invest money and let it grow over time. Said Ava Mushki, a senior at Jeffersontown High School. Another student, Ledrick Washington, used what he learned to invest in the stock market. I put like $10 into McDonald's. That was my first stock. I wanted to see it grow over time, Washington said. That's super cool. I love this. These lessons extend beyond the classroom, with many of the students taking what they've learned back home. I was able to teach my parents how to invest in stocks and manage money. Yes, this is helping everyone in our community, Mushki said. Really, really cool. I really love that. I guess that article ends abruptly. But there. Okay. That's good news, though. Love that. And I think that should be required in all schools for sure. If you're the mayor of a town and you're listening and you have control over the public school curriculum like the mayor of New York City does, idea. All right. Let's move on to girl. Man, my throat hurts so bad. Okay. This is a YouTube video. I watched the YouTube video already. I'm not going to play the YouTube video for you because I think in the past we've learned that is not going to work. But let me see if I can just pull up an article real quick. This was actually another Wacko who told me about this, so I don't want to fully take credit for it myself. Sorry, I just want to pull up your name. What is your name? It's a man. I know that. And I'm trying to remember what his name is. George. So Wacko George sent me this YouTube link because the woman who's the head of Mother Jones is running for Congress, and she just announced this, and it's really exciting, and I love it. And she has great energy, and I believe in her, right? She's running for Congress in Illinois. So this is from Yahoo. It says, liberal social media sensation Kat she pronounced her last name, but I only heard it once. Abagazela announces run for Congress and raises more than $200,000 on the first day, which is awesome. She's taking on incumbent Democratic Representative Jan Schakowsky in Illinois' 9th District. In what must be the first campaign announcement in U.S. history ever to use the F word, the progressive social media sensation Kat Abagazela released a video Monday that kicked off her bid to unseat Democratic Representative Jan Schakowsky of Illinois. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are dismantling our country piece by piece, and so many Democrats seem content to just sit back and let them, Abagazela says in the video. So I say it's time to drop the excuses and grow a fucking spine. Yes, yes, and double yes. After graduating from George Washington University in Washington, D.C. with a degree in international security, Abagazela, 26, took a job with the left-leaning watchdog group Media Matters before being hired by Mother Jones in 2024. Okay, so she's hired, like the guy, the person who wrote me said like she was in charge of, and I was like, she looks very young to be like in charge of. I mean, I don't make the rules though. Maybe she is, but she's being hired by Mother Jones in 2024. Does it say for what role? So she was doing video creation. It looks like. She is best known for her videos in which she derides Fox News and conservative personalities. On TikTok, she has over 217,000 followers and nearly 200,000 more on X, and some of her videos have received more than 1 million views. I've spent my entire career reporting on the far right and being attacked by them as a result, Abagazela said in her campaign video, in which a keffiyeh, the traditional headdress worn by Middle Eastern men that has become a symbol of Palestinian identity, is seen hanging on the wall. In her video, Abagazela also directed viewers to her website and asked them to donate to her campaign. On her first day as a candidate, she raised more than $200,000, her campaign told Yahoo News, which is incredible. And, really cool. Because I was asking my my fundraising people, I'm like, even if you're running for Congress in a specific state or district, it seems like because it will have national impact that people from all over are just more, it's easier to get a donation for people running for Congress. Because I was just trying to, talk about the difference between running for a municipal position the way I am and Congress. Because it's interesting because I'm like, I feel like people are so obsessed with what it takes to be mayor, but more willing to see someone without experience run for Congress. And I just don't really agree with that. But I guess you think of Congress as you're one of many, whereas mayor, people are looking at it you're kind of on your own. But you're not on your own as mayor. You have so many checks and balances. You have all these, city council. You have tons of people who can shut you down, which is great. So it says, background, the daughter of a Palestinian immigrant father and a seventh-generation Texan mother, Abagazela grew up in an upper-middle-class section of Dallas. HuffPost reported both her parents were politically conservative Fox News viewers. When she moved to Tucson, Arizona as a teenager, however, her perspective on the world began to shift. At least half my high school was low income or undocumented, she told HuffPost. The bootstrap myth just shattered before my eyes. On her newly minted website, Abba Gazela declares that Democrats have a representation problem, as in about half of Congress are millionaires and people born before the moon landing. I'm a renter. I don't have health insurance, she adds. My net worth is pretty much just the laptop I bought with my entire severance when I got laid off and my adorable cat heater. I mean, I will always say, I will also go back to the part where it says she grew up in an upper middle class section of Dallas. So just take that into account. It seems like she is broke, but perhaps not poor.
But why'd her family move to a place where half her high school was undocumented? You know what I mean?
I don't know, so that they could run a business where they got cheap labor. Look it up, Mike. I don't know. Why are we being so? I just like to keep it open. I think it's awesome that she's running, but I'm very interested in all these people who grew up really wealthy and what is upper middle class. I'm always I want to what does that mean? How much were your parents making a year? I want a number. Because again, I was walking around thinking I had a really middle class upbringing, and then I'm looking at everybody else's houses that they grew up in, and I go, why is everybody else's house that they grew up in bigger than mine? Everyone's. So let's see. Okay. While Schakowsky 80 was born before the moon landing, as of 2018, she didn't qualify as a millionaire. According to Open Secrets, her net worth was then estimated at $749,017. Schakowsky has been an outspoken critic of Trump. She boycotted his address to Congress earlier this month, then slammed his remarks as insulting and disrespectful. Last week, Schakowsky joined Representative Jerry Nadler of New York in denouncing Trump's firing of 2 Democratic commissioners at the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, calling it yet another direct assault on our democracy. Abba Gazela is attempting to tap into rising Democratic anger at old guard politicians like Chuck Schumer of New York, whom progressives accuse of failing to effectively counter Trump's moves to dismantle government agencies and fire federal workers. On her website, Abba Gazela also takes a not-so-subtle shot at Governor Gavin Newsom of California. And I mean, when we're talking about it's bold to be this young and this new and be taking shots at the Democrats like this, but this is a space that she has been a part of for a long time. And also, I mean, I think there's a consensus that the Democrats need to start taking shots. Maybe not at each other, but we need to be taking shots for sure. Not with guns, but just shots. Whose new podcast has featured guests. I didn't even realize Governor Gavin Newsom had a podcast now. Whose new podcast?
How did that miss you?
I've been busy, Mike. That's how it missed me. Whose new podcast has featured guests like the arch conservatives Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk. Really, he had Steve Bannon on?
Yeah, that's his thing. Is hey man, I'm a totally relatable liberal. I'm going to sit down with these conservatives and figure out common ground. That's his whole thing now.
Stinks. I just wish not Steve Bannon. Oh man, Steve Bannon. I don't mind, obviously I don't mind talking about people they disagree with, but these are some bottom of the fucking barrel people here. Some Democrats might be happy to throw trans people under the bus for an interview with Steve Bannon, but I'm not, she states. Her policy proposals range from enacting more protections for LGBTQ plus Americans, passing the Green New Deal to address climate change, increasing pay for public school teachers, offering universal pre-K, expanding Social Security, and abolishing limitations on abortion. While Illinois' 9th District is considered strongly Democratic, the first question Abba Gazela must answer is whether she can debate and beat Schakowsky, who was first elected to Congress in 1999 in the primary. And this is interesting that these are her stances, because I agree that the Democratic Party needs fresh voices, but I also think there needs to be a real concentration on working people. And not that we are ignoring these other things, but it seems like she's kind of riding on a lot of these far left elements that, have kept us losing elections, because they're not things, a lot of these things are things that not everyone relates to. And, liberals, as we talked about at the top of the show, are in a very why me, not me moment. What about me? Well, Illinois' ninth, oh, I read that already. Schakowsky, after all, can lean on her own liberal record. According to Progressive Punch, a database ranking how members vote, she was rated as the 27th most progressive Democrat in Congress, a former elementary school teacher. She also has received an A grade from the National Education Association. In a statement, I feel like 80s, like, you just maybe need to retire, though. Like, 80 is like a good, and even for your own sake, like, enjoy life a little bit. You're 80. You don't know how much time you got left. In a statement to Yahoo News, Abba Gazela said her entry into the race is not a referendum on Representative Schakowsky individually. On the whole, I admire Representative Schakowsky's progressive record and commitment to this district, Abba Gazela said, adding, instead, my campaign is about giving the 9th District the option to have an outspoken fighter in Congress who can push back against authoritarianism. Sorry, I got to say that slow. You know I can never get it out. Loudly, proudly, and every single day. Abba Gazela will have to convince Illinois voters that Schakowsky is part of the larger problem progressives see with the Democratic Party. I mean, like, yeah, if we're just talking about like what I've talked about many times before is pure star power. You need people that are, talking in simple terms, getting people engaged, and getting young people interested in politics, because it's you're going to have to pass down this responsibility, and if no one's interested, it's not happening. In her kickoff video, the woman known on social media as Kat Abu puts it this way. We're focused on meeting constituent needs with one simple rule. What if we didn't suck? I laughed out loud when she said that. And what a good campaign slogan. What if we didn't suck? I love that. And that's so funny because that was kind of what I was bringing to the table at the meeting I talked about at the top of the show. I was like, what if, like, as Democrats, we just were effective instead of being ineffective? I go, what if we just weren't sucking all the time? I didn't say sucking, but like basically this was the same energy I was bringing. Did not sit well with some people.
So I did a little bit of digging.
Yeah.
When her grandmother died, she inherited a mink coat that the woman wore to Nixon's inauguration.
See?
She's from old Texas money.
See, I when they said upper middle class casually, I said there's a reason they included that in the article. Like, there's always a reason that they included something in the article, and you gotta do a little reading between the lines, and I read between the lines.
To be fair, though, this also does talk about her grandfather being, like, ashamed of the fact that his daughter had Palestinian grandbabies for him instead of white grandbababies. So there may have been some, cutting off the inheritance.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit. A little bit of Claudia, what's the last name? Conway? Is that what I'm thinking of?
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah,
This is the right name I'm pulling up out of my head? Yeah.
Sure, that one works. There's the
No,
girl who
Claudia.
ratted her mom for being a January 6th.
No, it's
There's
like Claudia. It's like Claudia Conway energy, where you just like your whole career is like rebelling against your parents and being like, I'm not like them, and I'm also going to make up for their behavior.
Her grandmother was
Claudia Conway. Also, we have to stop the show, and she follows me on Instagram, and I didn't realize this until recently, and I DM'd her because I told her I was running for mayor. She didn't respond, but she did heart it, so that was like a response. That was good enough for me. I'll put a pin in that. Made me very happy. Love her. Love you, Claudia. Yes.
Her grandmother was on the Texas board of Republican women. They were like deep entrenched in the Republican Party in Texas.
Okay, so and this is also like new to politics, but actually not really. New to left-wing politics, but you still have experience in politics, which I think does count for something.
Family experience.
Yeah, it's like that legacy kind of thing going on. Okay. Information that we needed. Love. Thank you for that research. And last sentence of this article is Schakowsky has not indicated whether she plans to run for re-election. All right, well then, is there even a race? What's happening? Thought this was the big challenge. But yeah, I just like that. That made me really happy. I'm just like, yeah, this is what I want. This is what I want to see. I love this. I love that she made $200,000. I started reading the YouTube comments. I love that people were excited. I'm really interested to see, what's going on. I'm interested to see what people, the conversations or people are having with her, the people who are yelling at her in her face. I'm so curious. I was going to say, Mike, I don't know if she's like doing interviews or press. I would love to have her on the show. We could zoom in. We can all donate some money to her campaign. She seems like she's pretty busy. I mean, she has Mother Jones. I don't know that she needs Corinne Fisher, but I would love to talk to her. That's very exciting and very cool. All right, moving on to, okay, this is the story that I was laughing about as I was putting it into the document, into the Google Doc. We didn't go over this last week, right? The Pirates Booty founder, did we go over this last week? Okay. I couldn't remember when I found out about this, but this was making me laugh so hard. So Pirates Booty, like the puffy snack food, delish. The Pirates Booty founder stages Long Island mutiny, declares he's mayor, and tries to fire village staff. I mean, 3 things I love about this article. Number 1, Pirates Booty. Just thinking of that snack food. Just like, it's a very whimsical snack food. But the guy who created it stages a mutiny. How often do you see that word in a headline? Exciting. And then, how fitting, declares he's mayor. Like, again, like, not funny if it's happening to you, but this really gave me some comic relief this week. So Robert Ehrlich was falsely asserting his authority as mayor, demanding access to office space, and declaring that the entire village staff was fired, said officials in Seacliff, New York. I mean, I want to do a trip now. The founder of Pirates Booty Snacks lost his chaotic bid for mayor of a tiny New York community after he claimed he was the village leader and had the authority to replace the entire local government, officials said Thursday. Elena Villafane, the incumbent mayor of Seacliff, defeated Pirates Booty Snacks founder Robert. He pulled a Trump, but in Seacliff. He pulled a January 6th of Seacliff. I love this. Defeated Pirates Booty Snacks founder Robert Ehrlich 1,064 to 62 on Tuesday in the Village, which is about 26 miles northeast of Midtown Manhattan. Honestly, that sounds like such an easier race. Maybe I should have thrown my hat in that one. Villafane had been running unopposed for her third 2-year term when Ehrlich jumped into the fray a week ago Monday. Okay, so we're a little late to the race, my guy. That's when Ehrlich went to Village Hall and presented a statement falsely asserting his authority as mayor, demanding access to office space, and declaring that the entire village staff was fired effective immediately but could reapply for their jobs. Noble, the village. He's basically doing an audit, you know? While village staff remained calm and professional throughout the incident, Ehrlich and his associates raised their voices, used profane language, made outlandish claims, and engaged in direct harassment of village personnel, the statement said. Despite multiple requests to leave, they refused, creating a hostile and disruptive environment that required police intervention. The brazen assertions stunned village officials who said they'd never seen or heard from Ehrlich before in any civic context. To the best of my knowledge, he has never participated in any government entity, in any volunteer agency, any board or commission, Village Administrator Bruce Kennedy told NBC News on Thursday. Okay, well, that being said, though, in much bigger races, just being like a rich businessman, which I'm guessing if he created Pirates Booty, he's got some money, is completely fine with people. So, in his defense, Ehrlich rejected election results, saying they were rigged and counted in secret. Oh my God. He said that poll workers weren't properly checking rolls and that he'd know, claiming his supporters made repeated visits to the voting booth. So one of my supporters voted 3 times, Ehrlich claimed to NBC News. Another one voted 4 times, and they didn't even realize that he was coming in that many times. Ehrlich insists he and other village residents have power under the New York Government Reorganization and Citizen Empowerment Act to completely replace the village government structure with another. I don't want to dissolve the village. I want to consolidate the village, says Ehrlich, who calls himself the duly elected mayor of the incorporated village of Seacliff residents. Consolidation means that one entity, the ruling entity, the residents, who actually are the boss of the other entity, could then absorb that entity into this entity, making everything run the way it is now, except without the abuse and fear and threats that come to this village. Ehrlich's primary beefs with village government are remarkably pedestrian. You don't say based on all of his behavior described earlier in this article. He says that services aren't delivered in a timely manner. Like, what is he not? Services aren't delivered in a timely manner? Like, is he not getting his Uber Eats fast enough? Like, what are we talking about here? And that not enough is being done to revitalize business on the main drag, Seacliff Avenue. I mean, I will say that sounds like a municipal issue to me. They really could not care less and do not want businesses to thrive, he said. Is there a standalone Pirates Booty store in Seacliff? Because then I need to visit. They really could not care less and do not want businesses to thrive, he said. The place needs foot traffic. It needs people from the outside coming into Seacliff from other North Shore Long Island communities, such as Roslyn from Great Neck. Ehrlich says he has collected 1,900 votes at his coffee shop for the past 4 years, saying such an unusual ballot has holy precedent. Oh, no. Is this the part where we talk about God made him mayor of Seacliff? 1,900 votes since our election, he said. The longest election in history was from 1268 to 1271, when they couldn't find a pope. So actually, I have the longest election in history. Mike, please add this guy to the list of people that I 100% have to interview on this show. And I'm going to call him mayor. I'm going to say we have the mayor of Seacliff here. I'm going to say we all know that was rigged. And I'm going to be eating Pirates Booty while I do it.
I still consider George Santos my congressman.
Oh, boy. Here we go. In theory, Ehrlich or anyone else could submit a petition with 10% of the village's registered voters asking for Seacliff to be dissolved. Once such signatures were verified, a village-wide vote would be held to ask whether Seacliff could be eliminated and then folded into the town of Oyster Bay, Kennedy said. He had a FedEx-type envelope that was sealed that he was waving around, allegedly with petition signatures, which is making me laugh so hard because I literally just bought I brought a FedEx envelope with my own petitions into my house, but I wasn't waving them. At the March 10th meeting, Kennedy said, and when he was asked, do you want to submit that? And he said no. Ehrlich invented Pirates Booty in the 1980s, making the puffed cheese, corn, and rice snack a ubiquitous presence at checkout stands across America. Oh, now I want Pirates Booty so bad. It's so tasty. Then in 2013, B&G Foods Incorporated purchased Robert's American Gourmet Food, which owns the Pirates Booty brand, for $195 million. 5 years later, Hershey purchased Pirate brands from B&G Foods Incorporated, including the Pirates Booty Smart Puffs and Original Tings brands, for a purchase price of $420 million, the famed chocolate company announced. Despite his wealth, Ehrlich said Thursday he plans to remain active in local political politics. What are political politics? As a write-in candidate, Ehrlich had virtually no chance of winning Tuesday. He still got 62 votes. Out of not a lot of votes. You're not no one.
Yeah, but he said himself his boys were going in and voting multiple times. What are we talking about?
Right, a couple people did vote 3 times.
This is a clown show. Yeah, he voted for himself 14 times. That's how he got to 62.
Asked whether he might take another shot at running for mayor in 2 years using more conventional methods that could land him on the ballot. Oh my God, he said no. I'm mayor now. Why do I have to wait 2 years? I am mayor at this moment. I can write an executive order. Okay, is this guy doing a bit? Or is he is this serious?
He's claiming his Pirates Booty.
I know that's
the town of Seacliff.
The comments were saying this is very pirate of him to stage a mutiny.
How are you going to be the guy who sold Pirates Booty for $195 million and not drive around in a pirate ship?
I don't know. Missed opportunity. Oh my God! I hope he has a peg leg. This that was my favorite article of the week. That really tickled me. Oh, I really enjoyed that. And we needed to enjoy that because everything else is from here on in is going to be pretty bleak, guys. All right. So breaking news as of earlier today is about this Tufts University student just being, fucking kidnapped off the street. So this is from Al Jazeera. Trump administration arrests Turkish student at Tufts, revokes visa. A doctoral student at Tufts University has been detained by federal agents without explanation, her lawyer said. I posted the video on my social media. But it's they're all masked, and it's happening in like a rather calm manner, but it's really freaky. And I mean, like, the woman has no idea what's happening, and it's like really scary. She's literally just walking down the sidewalk, and it said that she was going to meet up friends to break her fast from Ramadan. All right. So United States immigration authorities have arrested and revoked the visa of a Turkish doctoral student at Tufts University near Boston who had voiced support for Palestinians during Israel's war in Gaza. Why are they saying that like past tense, like it's still going on? Rumesa.
No, there's a ceasefire. Everything's good now.
No, I mean, obviously it's not.
What are you talking about? Trump's in office. Everything's fine.
This is on you, Mike, not me. Well, it's on neither of us now that we learned that your vote didn't count.
No, I mean,
but in your heart, you voted for Trump.
I mean, it's on Al Jazeera. It's like the wording of this article. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like that's how people are talking about this situation now, despite the fact that there is still ongoing atrocities.
Well, yeah. I mean, why is Al Jazeera talking about it like that? If any, I actually picked Al Jazeera so I could get the most on her side take on this. Rumesa Ozturk, 30, had left her home in Somerville on Tuesday night to meet friends and break her Ramadan fast when she was arrested. Okay, so she was leaving her home because I'm like in the thing, she's on the sidewalk, but she was actually like very close to her home.
I guess she Ramadan fucked up leaving the house.
That wasn't that good.
I've been sitting on it for like
I don't think that was
20
that.
seconds.
I don't think that was that. I mean, you know what? And it felt like 20 seconds. And break her Ramadan fast when she was arrested by Department of Homeland Security agents. Lawyer Masa Kanbabe said in a petition is the theme of today, filed in Boston federal court. Ozturk's supporters say her detention is the first known immigration arrest of a Boston area student engaged in such activism to be carried out under President Donald Trump. His administration has detained or sought to detain several foreign-born students who are legally in the U.S. and have been involved in pro-Palestinian protests. The actions have been condemned as an assault on free speech, though the Trump administration argues that certain protests are anti-Semitic and can undermine U.S. foreign policy. U.S. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin, in a post on X, said authorities determined Ozturk engaged in activities in support of Hamas, a foreign terrorist organization that relishes the killing of Americans. A visa is a privilege, not a right, McLaughlin said. And like, I agree that a visa is a privilege, not a right. We talked about this last week. That being said, when we need information, like what are these people doing? What are we calling terrorist activities? Because again, like last week, the flyer that we received from the person who was on the Columbia campus, the Columbia student, who shared the Mahmoud Khalil flyer with us. I go, yeah, don't love the flyer. Wouldn't be jazzed if someone handed that to me on a college campus. That being said, he doesn't deserve to be deported for that. He can absolutely, he's an American. He has the absolute right to be handing those out. She did not specify what activities, but Ozturk's arrest came a year after the student co-authored an opinion piece in the school's student paper, the TUFT Daily, that criticized TUFT's response to calls by students to divest from companies with ties to Israel and to acknowledge the Palestinian genocide. Based on patterns we are seeing across the country, her exercising her free speech rights appeared to have played a role in her detention, Kanbabe said. I will say it's cool of Tufts that they're allowing opinions that are criticizing them to go in their paper. That's cool. Like that. Very much the opposite of what we read about the Washington Post after Bezos took over, right? Looked like a kidnapping following Ozturk's or not after Bezos took over, after Bezos became Trump's bitch. Sorry. Following Ozturk's arrest, Kanbabe filed a lawsuit late Tuesday arguing she was unlawfully detained, prompting U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani in Boston that night to order U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, not to move Ozturk out of Massachusetts without at least 48 hours notice. Despite the judge's order, by Wednesday afternoon, Kanbabe, in a motion, said she had been unable to locate her client in New England and had just been informed by a U.S. Senator's office that Ozturk was transferred to Louisiana. She sought a court order requiring ICE to permit access to Ozturk. The student's detention was condemned by Democratic lawmakers, including U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, who said the arrest is the latest in an alarming pattern to stifle civil liberties. A rally in her support was expected later Wednesday in Somerville. Neighbors said that they were left rattled by the arrest, which played out at 5:30 p.m. on a residential block. It looked like a kidnapping. The noises she were making was she was whimpering. It was fucked up, said Michael Mathis, a 32-year-old software engineer whose surveillance camera picked up the footage of the arrest. They approach her and start grabbing her with their faces covered. They're covering their faces. They're in unmarked vehicles. The Trump administration has targeted international students as it seeks to crack down on immigration, including ramping up immigration arrests and sharply restricting border crossings. Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in particular, have pledged to deport foreign pro-Palestinian protesters, accusing them of supporting Hamas militants, posing hurdles for U.S. foreign policy, and being anti-Semitic. But you're allowed to be anti-Semitic. You're allowed to be. I'm not like a fan of it, but you're allowed to be. I welcome you.
Way.
I welcome you to be.
You're not allowed to be in a formal way.
Well, you're talking about anti-Israel. You're definitely allowed to be anti-Semitic. You're not allowed to be anti-Israel. I see what you're saying. Protesters, including some Jewish groups, say the administration wrongly conflates their criticism of Israel and support for Palestinian rights with anti-Semitism and support for Hamas. Ozturk is a Fulbright scholar, and student in TUFT's doctoral program for child study and human development, according to her LinkedIn profile, and had previously studied at Columbia University in New York, where it all happens. Am I right? She has been in the country on an F-1 visa, which allows students to live in the U.S. while studying, according to the lawsuit. In a statement, Tufts President Sunil Kumar said the school had no advanced knowledge of the arrest, which he recognized would be distressing to some members of our community, particularly the members of our international community. I mean, I would say number one would be distressing to her. Ozturk was taken into custody less than 3 weeks after Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia University graduate and lawful permanent resident, was similarly arrested. He is challenging his detention after Trump, without evidence, accused him of supporting Hamas, which Khalil denies. Federal immigration officials are also seeking to detain a South Korean-born Columbia University student who is a legal permanent U.S. resident and has participated in pro-Palestinian protests, a move blocked by courts for now. A Lebanese doctor and assistant professor at Brown University in Rhode Island this month was denied re-entry to the U.S. and deported to Lebanon after the Trump administration alleged that her phone contained photos sympathetic to Hezbollah. Rasha Eloai said she does not support the group but holds regard for its slain leader because of her religion. The Trump administration has also targeted students at Cornell University in New York and Georgetown University in Washington. Are they just targeting schools where people are smart because they want us all to be dumb, because they know when we're dumb we're more likely to vote for them? Statistics. Sorry. I don't make the statistics. I just read them. All right. Let's see. Moving on. All right. So this is about the president of Columbia, as in the university, not Columbia, Columbia the place, but not that place. All right. Sorry, this is not clicking. This is from the Free Press. Columbia president says one thing to Trump admin and another in private. In a private Zoom call over the weekend, interim Columbia president Katrina Armstrong told approximately 75 faculty members that, contrary to her public statements, the school has no plans to meet some key demands made by the Trump administration for Columbia to win back $400 million worth of federal funding. Feels like you probably shouldn't have said it in a 75-person meeting and then have it land on the Free Press where President Trump can Google it, but okay. According to a transcript of the call obtained by the Free Press, Armstrong promised that there would be no change to masking and no change to our admissions procedures, both of which the administration has demanded. I want to know how Katrina thought she was going to keep this a secret for more than one day. What's more, she said, the school would not put its Middle Eastern, South Asian, and African Studies department under academic receivership for a minimum of 5 years, another Trump demand. She also told faculty members that discipline remains independent and has not moved to my office, as the Trump administration's anti-Semitism task force has insisted. This is in direct contradiction to Columbia's public promises to the White House. After the school was stripped of $400 million worth of federal funding earlier this month for having failed to protect American students and faculty from anti-Semitic violence and harassment, the task force sent a letter to the university detailing how it could earn back the federal money. Last week, in a memo to the Trump administration, Columbia agreed to the task force's demands, which also included the adoption of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism. And we're going to go click on that. So this says working definition of anti-Semitism. I love when it has working in it, because working means, I don't know, we can change it at any time. We're working on it. What are you talking about? Working. Wait. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. Okay, so like the ownership of the property is the part where they're basically like trying to mix it with Zionism. There's a lot of other things here. Contemporary examples of anti-Semitism in public life, the media, schools, the workplace, and in the religious sphere could, taking into overall the context, include but are not limited to. Oh, I love an include but are not limited to. Number one, calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of a radical ideology or an extremist view of religion. Okay. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as collective, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, or even for acts committed by non-Jews. Denying the fact, scope, mechanisms, e.g. gas chambers, or intentionality of the genocide of the Jewish people at the hands of National Socialist Germany and its supporters and accomplices during World War II, in parentheses, the Holocaust. Accusing the Jews, so just Holocaust denial, they could have really wrapped that up. Accusing the Jews as a people or Israel as a state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations. I mean, like accusing because they are, or just accusing all that being true of all Jews, because that one's questionable. I mean, a lot of these I have questions about. Denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, e.g. by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Like that one, obviously, like you're allowed, you can question that. You can talk about that. Applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. I feel like a lot of other democratic nations are questioned about that, though. You know, like America belongs to indigenous people, right? Like we talk about that. We know that. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, e.g. claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis, drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. You can draw a comparison to whatever the fuck you want to draw a comparison to. Holding Jews collectively responsible for the actions of the state of Israel.
Now who's anti-Semitic?
I'm not anti-Semitic. Some of this just doesn't make sense.
According to this, you might be.
Well, I mean, again, I knew this was going to be wild when I clicked on it. Oh, damn it. I clicked out the whole thing. I just like, again, this goes for everything. I don't like a list of like fucking demands from a group of people who have their own bias and like their own like specific goal that they're working towards. Like that doesn't sit well for me, whether or not like no matter who's saying it. I don't like it. All right, back to this. I gotta go. Where was that link? This was so far. Oh, anti-Semitism. Here, that's where we are. Okay. A source close to the anti-Semitism task force told the Free Press that the revelations from Armstrong's call could blow up its deal with the administration. Yeah, no shit. Columbia should not test the administration's resolve in holding them to every action they've agreed to take to protect their students and faculty, the source said. We expect full compliance and good faith negotiations if Columbia wants to have a productive relationship with the federal government. I mean, quite honestly, and again, like, I think that a lot of the stuff that's happening, like, you are allowed to do in America, but like, truly, if I was on the campus and there was like this much going on, you know, and like the stomping of the Star of David, I would just be like, just give me a refund. I'll go someplace else. Like, I just wouldn't even be interested in going there. I'd be like, you do whatever you want to do. It's fucking chaos on this campus. For now, however, Secretary of Education Linda McMahon says that she believes Armstrong will keep her word. Asked about the possibility that Columbia might ignore the terms of the deal it just agreed to, McMahon told the Free Press she believed Armstrong is absolutely dedicated and committed to making sure that students on her campus are safe and that civil rights are not in any way being impacted. I mean, it seems like you've lost control of the campus a little bit, babe. She added, they have to abide and comply with the terms that we have sat down and talked with them about and that they've agreed to. A Columbia spokesperson told the Free Press that Armstrong has been clear that she wants to constructively engage with our regulators and is fully committed to the actions announced on Friday to combat anti-Semitism and all forms of discrimination which have no place in our community. The spokesperson also told the Free Press that individuals participating in demonstrations, including those who wear face masks or face coverings, must present their university ID when asked by a university official. Face coverings used to conceal one's identity while violating university rules, policies, or the law are not allowed on campus. In a statement published Tuesday, Armstrong said, I regret any confusion and inconsistent statements and want to make sure our position is clear as we go forward. Armstrong restated the action the school claims to be taking to combat anti-Semitism and added, let there be no confusion. I commit to seeing these changes implemented with the full support of Columbia's senior leadership team and the Board of Trustees. The transcript reveals the depth of the faculty's frustration with Armstrong's effort to get Columbia's funding restored. Many on the call argued that she should not have made any concessions to the administration, with some faculty members saying they were appalled and profoundly disappointed with Armstrong and wondered why the school capitulated to an authoritarian government. Some questioned why the university hadn't sued the administration to restore its funding. This is a crisis not just for Columbia, its biggest crisis since the founding of the Republic, but for all universities in this great country, said one faculty member during the call. You know, he recorded that and played it for someone that he's fucking. Armstrong warned colleagues of the possibility of further funding cuts. The ability of the federal administration to leverage other forms of federal funding about us in an immediate fashion is really potentially devastating to our students in particular. She said, I think this is a really critical risk for us to understand. At multiple points during the call, Armstrong reiterated her position that the school would not enact the reforms it has committed to publicly. Later on in the meeting, when describing a new hire to help with the Mesas department, Columbia Provost Angela Alinto clarified that this is not a receivership. The provost will not be writing or controlling anything. It's the faculty. Our goal is to just coordinate. After some pushback, Armstrong doubled down. There's no receivership, no intent for receivership. Armstrong and Olinto said that they would refuse to accept 5 of the 9 demands made by the administration's anti-Semitism task force, including according to the transcript. The demands, they said, they would adhere to related to discipline enforcement, so-called time, place, and manner rules, which would restrict protests on campus, internal law enforcement, and a plan to hold student groups accountable. The conditions for Columbia to win back its funding, which were laid out in a letter earlier this month, were the bare minimum the government was insisting upon. One person familiar with the matter told the Free Press at the time. This is what's required for Columbia to even be invited to a negotiating table. Columbia is one of 60 colleges and universities under investigation by the administration for failing to control anti-Semitism on its campus. It is the first institution to have its funding cut. In the 18 months since October 7th, 2023, protesters at Columbia have taken over buildings, set up encampments, interrupted classes, and assaulted janitors. Right. So that's what I was talking about. The taking over buildings and the assaulted janitors, that's a no-no. Jewish students at the school say that they have been subjected to anti-Semitic violence and harassment. When one faculty member pointed out the difference between Armstrong's public statements and what she was telling them in private, the transcript shows no recorded response from Armstrong. Later on in the meeting, Armstrong said that she just wants everybody to understand the process gets subverted by things that happen sometimes outside the institutional voice. Lawyers from the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Civil Rights, are due to visit Columbia's campus this week to investigate potential violations of federal civil rights law, the Wall Street Journal reported Monday. Also on Monday, a letter was released signed by over 600 Jewish faculty members, scholars, and students across various U.S. universities outlining their strong opposition to the funding cuts. Harming U.S. universities does not protect Jewish people. The letter reads, cutting funding for research does not protect Jewish people. Punishing researchers and scholars does not protect Jewish people. These actions do, however, limit opportunities for students and scholars within the Jewish community and beyond to receive training, conduct research, and engage in free expression. At the end of the meeting, Armstrong said to her colleagues, I think us all kind of taking a moment to walk in each other's shoes is really what makes me proudest of this university. And it's just been an extraordinary experience to watch people be able to do that and commit to doing that. That doesn't really seem like that's accurately summed up what happened in the meeting, but nice, cute ending. All right. There's a lot of Israel-Palestine stuff this week, but like in different forms than we've seen it before. So Mike brought to my attention that there are actually states where it is outlawed that you can't protest against Israel, which I didn't know about. But I pulled it up from Newsweek. It's from April 29th of last year, 2024. And it says map shows states where boycotting Israel is illegal. So here we are. Amid ongoing pro-Palestinian protests at different college campuses in the U.S., a number of states have previously passed legislation essentially making it illegal to boycott Israel. In recent weeks, pro-Palestinian protests have broken out on college. So we know the story. We're in it. Blah, 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 blah. Despite the ongoing protests at different colleges, several U.S. states have previously passed legislation that bars state agencies from working with and investing in companies that boycott Israel and or support the BDS movement. Pop up, sorry. So which is just boycott, divestment, and sanctions. The Jewish Virtual Library previously published a list of different states that have enacted this type of legislation, and Newsweek used the list to create a map to show where boycotting Israel is considered illegal. The states that have passed legislation making it illegal for state agencies to work with companies that boycott Israel include Texas, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Florida, Arizona, Georgia, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arkansas, Minnesota, Nevada, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Rhode Island, New Jersey. Oh, didn't know that. Oklahoma, Kansas, North Carolina, Utah, Missouri, Idaho, West Virginia, Colorado, Mississippi, and New Hampshire. It's like a couple blue states in there, but more red states. These states are shaded on the map in red, but nothing having, not liberal versus Democrat, though. Or liberal versus conservative, I mean. For example, in Indiana, the state Senate passed legislation in 2016 calling for mandatory divestment by state agencies from any company involved in the promotion of activities to boycott, divest from, or sanction Israel, the Jewish virtual library states. A number of other states also passed similar anti-BDS executive orders, such as New York, Maryland, Wisconsin, Louisiana, Kentucky, and South Dakota. These states are shaded on the map in pink. In Alaska, an administrative order was signed by Governor Mike Dunleavy this year, directed state agencies to halt business transactions with entities that endorse a boycott of Israel, the Jewish virtual library states. Newsweek reached out to the BDS movement via email for comment. Critics of anti-BDS laws like the ACLU say that these laws are not designed to prevent discrimination. In fact, they're designed to discriminate against disfavored political expression. Refusing to purchase consumer goods and services to protest a country's or company's actions is not denying anyone access to public accommodations based on who they are. It's classic political expression protected under the First Amendment, the ACLU states. Agreed. That's where anti-BDS laws go wrong. They expressly target boycotts of companies operating in Israel or Israeli settlements because the government disapproves of the boycott's message of protests against Israel. Very interesting. And I feel like shit like this breeds anti-Semitism. And that's how they become connected, right? And that's how things like, Jews run everything come to fruition. It's like stuff like this is not good for Jewish people. It's not protecting us, especially when Newsweek makes a map about it.
I mean, we went over in the last election, AIPAC was bragging about how no candidate they endorsed lost. It's like they're literally they're the only unbeatable political lobby.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, boy. All right. Let's see. I don't need to read the full thing on this, but I did want to bring attention, because it's adjacent to all these stories. So one of the directors of the Palestinian film that won the Oscar, if you guys watch the Oscar, I'm sure you probably remember his speech. Where did the article go? Just disappeared? Oh, jeez. Conspiracy? No. Oscars, Palestinian filmmaker. Okay. So Hamdan Bilal is the name of the filmmaker, and he won the Oscar. It said Oscar-winning Palestinian director Hamdan Bilal released after alleged attack by Israeli settlers, army detainment. And so he's saying, and there's a weird video going around the internet. It's just hard to see. It's not weird. I think it's fake. It's just hard to see what's happening. There's people are attacking each other, and then they're saying get back in the car. So Israeli authorities have released Hamdan Bilal, an Oscar-winning Palestinian director who was detained by the army after being attacked by Jewish settlers in the occupied West Bank. He said they beat him in front of his home while filming the assault. And then I read something else that said he was throwing rocks at Israelis. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but just why would an Oscar-winning film director be throwing rocks? Not that because you win an Oscar, it means you can't act you can't do that. But it just seemed that doesn't really seem to make sense, something he would be doing. I'm just let's just use logic here. Bilal and the other directors of No Other Land, which looks at the struggles of living under Israeli occupation, had mounted the stage at the 97th Academy Awards in Los Angeles earlier this month when it won the award for Best Documentary Film. On Tuesday, with bruises on his face and blood on his clothes, he was released from an Israeli police station in the West Bank settlement of Kiryat Arba. He and two other Palestinians who had been attacked and detained were driven to a nearby hospital. Bilal said he was held at an army base and forced to sleep under a freezing air conditioner. I was blindfolded for 24 hours. All the night I was freezing. It was a room. I couldn't see anything. I heard the voice of soldiers laughing about me. Leet Smell to smell. The attorney representing the three men said they received only minimal care for their injuries from the attack and that she had no access to them for several hours after their arrest. She had earlier said they were accused of throwing stones at a young settler, allegations they deny. Palestinian residents say around 24 settlers, some masked, some carrying guns, and some in military uniforms, attacked the West Bank village of Susia on Monday evening as residents were breaking their fast during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Soldiers who arrived pointed their guns at the Palestinians while settlers continued throwing stones. The Israeli military said Monday it had detained 3 Palestinians suspected of hurling rocks at forces and 1 Israeli civilian involved in what it described as a violent confrontation. On Tuesday, it referred further queries to police who did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Hamdan Bilal's wife heard him screaming, "I'm dying." Lamia Bilal, the director's wife, said she heard her husband being beaten outside their home as she huddled inside with their 3 children. She heard him screaming, "I'm dying," and calling for an ambulance. When she looked out the window, she saw 3 men in uniform beating Bilal with the butts of their rifles. And this is from CBS, by the way. I don't think I said that at the top. And another person in civilian clothes who appeared to be filming the violence. Of course, after the Oscar, they have come to attack us, Lamia said. "I felt afraid." Yeah, I agree that you go, all right, that feels like it's putting a target on your back. But, I mean, good for you for getting that art out into the world, baby. West Bank set, that's what, when we talk about, people being brave, I think, making a film like that, that's being brave when you know what the repercussions could be. Telling a fart joke on TV made me less brave. Comedians always like to be like, "Wow, we're very brave." Okay, are we? Every day as I wake up to run for mayor, I go, man, I had it real good as a comedian. I had it real good. And a single tear rolls down my cheek. West Bank settlers are often armed and sometimes wear military-style clothing that makes it difficult to distinguish them from other soldiers. On Tuesday, a small bloodstain could be seen outside their home, and the car's windshield and windows were shattered. Neighbors pointed to a nearby water tank with a hole in the side that they said had been punched by the settlers. No other land chronicles the struggle by residents of the Masafer Yatta area in the southern West Bank to stop the Israeli military from demolishing their villages. The joint Israeli-Palestinian production has won a string of international awards, starting at the Berlin International Film Festival in 2024. It has also drawn ire in Israel and abroad, as when Miami Beach proposed ending the lease of a movie theater that screened it. Basel Adra, another of the film's co-directors, who is a prominent Palestinian activist in the area, said there's been a massive upswing in attacks by settlers and Israeli forces since the Oscar win. Nobody can do anything to stop the pogroms, and soldiers are only there to facilitate and help the attacks, he said. "We're living in the dark days here in Gaza and all of the West Bank. Nobody's stopping this." Mass settlers with sticks also attacked Jewish activists in the area on Monday, smashing their car windows and slashing tires. Josh Kimmelman, an activist for the Center for Jewish Nonviolence, who was at the scene, told the AP. Video provided by the group showed a mass settler shoving and swinging his fists at 2 activists in a dusty field at night. Israel captured. This is just the end, the history of Israel, which we've gone over on this show before. But yeah, so that's that. Saw that going around. There's just a lot of people kind of just being attacked and swept up in the middle of the night. A lot of it happening right after, breaking fast for Ramadan, which, I mean, that's typical. A lot of times, a certain ethnicity or religion is targeted during a holy time. That happens to, multiple people or multiple groups of people. It's an attack strategy for sure. Doesn't make it good. Don't love. Yeah. All right. Moving on to Mia Love's final word. Mia Love, I didn't mean to cut that. Sorry. Mia Love passed away this week. You might have heard. Mia Love, my last wish for the America I know. In the last piece she wrote before her death, the late former Utah Congresswoman took up her pen not to say goodbye, but to say thank you. And just so you know, because I don't, Mia Love, I don't know that I was familiar with her before this. She's from New York. She served as a representative for Utah's 4th Congressional District from 2015 to 2019. She was also the mayor of Saratoga Springs from 2010 to 2014, and she's a Republican. She's the first Black Republican congresswoman. Let's see. So Mia Love never had it easy, yet in an age where cynicism about the United States and its founding had become the norm, she never lost sight of the great opportunities America had given her. In 2022, Love was diagnosed with brain cancer. 2 weeks ago, she announced in a moving Deseret News essay that she would soon die and use this final opportunity to write a love letter to America. We wanted to have her on, honestly, but this past weekend, her family announced that she had passed away at age 49. And so this is the message from her. That was the message from the Free Press. My dear friends, fellow Americans, and Utahns, I am taking up my pen not to say goodbye, but to say thank you and express my living wish for you and the America I know. My battle with brain cancer is coming to an end. The disease is no longer responding to treatment, and my family and I have shifted our focus from treatments to enjoying every moment and making memories with the time we have. My life has been extended by exceptional medical care, science, and extraordinary professionals who have become dear friends. My extra season of life has also been the result of the faith and prayers of countless friends, known and unknown. The result of such humble faith and pleading prayers have been felt by me and my family in ways too numerous to count. I have always believed that faith and science are inextricably interconnected. As a mayor, member of Congress, and media commentator, I have seen the worst of petty politics, divisive rhetoric, and disappointing lapses of moral character by some. These same roles also provided me a front row seat and backstage pass to be blessed and inspired by the courage, vision, and hope of America's finest daughters, sons, and citizens. Couching this column as a dying wish felt a little dramatic, even for a drama person like me. We are not certain how long this season of my battle will be, and I do want to share and reshare some things with the world that I passionately believe. I write all of this as my living wish and hopefully enduring wish for you. Let me tell you about the America I know. My parents immigrated to the United States with $10 in their pocket and a belief that the America they had heard about really did exist as the land of opportunity. Through hard work and great sacrifice, they achieved success. So the America I came to know growing up was filled with all the excitement found in living the American dream. I was taught to love this country, warts and all, and understand I had a role to play in our nation's future. I learned to passionately believe in the possibilities and promise of America. Watching my father and mother work odd jobs in order to provide for us and maintain their independence taught me valuable lessons in personal responsibility. When tough times came, they didn't look to Washington, they looked within. Because the America they knew was centered in self-reliance. The America I know is founded in the freedom self-reliance always brings. What makes America great is the idea that when government is limited and decisions are made closest to the people they impact, people are free to work, free to live, free to choose, free to fail, and free to achieve. The America I know provides everyone an equal opportunity to be as unequaled as they choose to be. I'm not going to comment on this. I'm just reading this, but these are her thoughts, not mine. The America I know gives back. Americans, regardless of financial status, are the most giving people on the planet. Hard to not laugh out loud at that. On their own, without government requirement, our people give their money, their time, and their attention to causes, communities, and people in need, whether it is across the street or around the world. I've experienced this generosity throughout my life, and during my battle with cancer, I am so grateful. The America I know makes tough choices. As the mayor of Saratoga Springs, Utah, facing its own fiscal cliff, we put limited government, fiscal discipline, and personal responsibility first in order to create an amazing community that could last. I have also seen that facing challenging choices head on inspires our citizens to get involved, engage in meaningful dialogue, rally around shared values, do things differently, and change the way government works. Regardless of the difficulties we may face individually, in our families, in our communities, and in our nation, the old adage is still true. You can make excuses or you can make progress, but you cannot make both. The America I know doesn't make excuses. The America I know is grounded in the gritty determination found in patriots, pioneers, and struggling parents, in small business owners with big ideas, in the farmers who work in the beauty of our landscapes and the artists who paint them, in our heroic military and our inspiring Olympic athletes, and in every child who looks at the seemingly impossible and says, I can do that. The America I know is great, not because government made it great, but because ordinary citizens like me, like my parents, and like you are given the opportunity every day to do extraordinary things. That is the America I know. What the America I know deserves. Some have forgotten the math of America. Whenever you divide, you diminish. What I know is that the goodness and compassion of the American people is a multiplier that simply cannot be measured. The goodness and greatness of our country is multiplied when neighbors help neighbors, when we reach out to those in need and build better citizens and more heroic communities. You see, the America I know is built by citizens and leaders who respect, strengthen, and serve each other, not based on race, gender, or economic status, but because we are Americans. We all have a role to play in uniting the country around the principles that have made us extraordinary. The America I know will continue as long as each of us simply remember that this country is exceptional, because it is. I know it is. I can see on the horizon that our best and brightest days as a nation are still to come. I mean, I hope so, Jesus. The America I know deserves leaders who trust the people and will tell them the hard truth about where we are and what we need to do in order to preserve our future. We need leaders who are prepared to engage in a dialogue about realities, priorities, and solving America's problems. When I wrote my memoir, Qualified, the working title was By the Content of Your Character. The American principles I wrote about in my book are the principles that shaped and blessed my life. I have always felt that it was character that counts in this country. The America I know, while far from perfect, is the place where we strive every day to live up to the principles Dr. Martin Luther King declared from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. We will be judged in the end, individually and as a nation, by the content of our character. The America I know isn't just my story, and it isn't just your story. It is our story. It is a story of endless possibilities, human struggle, standing up and striving for more. Our story has been told for well over 100 years, punctuated by small steps and giant leaps. From a woman on a bus to a man with a dream, from the bravery of the greatest generation to the explorers, entrepreneurs, reformers, and innovators of today. This is our story. This is the America we know, because we built it together. As my season of life begins to draw to a close, I still passionately believe that we can revive the American story we know and love. I am convinced that our citizens must remember the principles of our story so that our children and those seeking freedom around the world will know where to look to find a place for their story. We must fight to keep the America we know as that shining city on a hill, truly the last best hope on earth. Like Benjamin Franklin and countless patriots down through the ages, I believe the American experiment is not a setting sun, but a rising sun. I thank each of you and all of you for being a part of my journey in the American dream. You and I, we the people, will be forever connected in the cause of this country we love. In the end, I hope that my life will have mattered and made a difference for the nation I love and the family and friends I adore. I hope you will see the America I know in the years ahead, that you will hear my words in the whisper of the wind of freedom and feel my presence in the flame of the enduring principles of liberty. My living wish and fervent prayer for you and for this nation is that the America I have known is the America you fight to preserve, and that each citizen and every leader will do their part to ensure that the America we know will be the America our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will inherit. So I don't really want to comment on that. Obviously, there's lots of stuff I disagree with. I just wanted to share it because I always see, especially when it's a person of color, and I would say even more specifically Black people and Black women, that like when they are Republicans, liberals basically are just like, but you're not allowed to be because you're a Black woman. And so as, you know, in honor of Mia Love being the first Black Republican Congresswoman, I just wanted to share that because I think like this show is about sharing different perspectives, and I thought that was, you know, a way to honor someone who died too young. And that's it. Like I just see commentaries like, you just took away, cancer treatment and then you died of cancer. And like, yeah, okay. Yeah. But I mean, like, you're allowed to be Black and a woman and Republican. And like this rule that liberals have made that you can't be, I feel like, we're so worried about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But in that, we also like to be super controlling about people of color and how they choose to make decisions politically and socially. And isn't that equally racist? Isn't that also or isn't that also racism? I would say so.
Think about Hillary Clinton on the Breakfast Club, or Joe Biden on the Breakfast Club.
I didn't listen to their appearances on the Breakfast Club, but I love my man Shar. Why?
Hillary's the one where she pulled out
is that the hot sauce?
Hot sauce out of her bag.
Okay, well
and he called her out on pandering, and she asked if it was working. And then Joe Biden said, if you ain't voting Democrat, you ain't Black.
So I remember both of those instances. I didn't remember that they both happened on the Breakfast Club. But yeah, I hated both of those. And I'm like, Hillary, I mean, Hillary's was just corny. I don't, I'm not a fan of prop comedy across the board. So that was, very Pokemon go to the polls to me. And like the Joe Biden was just like crazy. Just crazy. All right. And the last thing, of course, that we're going to talk about today is, story of the week. Pete Hegseth. Oh, this one, can you use your little tool? Because this is the people who broke it, and I want to go from the Atlantic, but I can't get in. Sorry, I forgot. I meant to point that out to you earlier. If you can, I think the Associated Press picked it up, but I like to read it from the original in case there's extra. Because they actually got the chats from Signal. And I'm so excited. I'm a real politician because I have Signal. I didn't even know what Signal, I didn't even know what Signal was, just like an app that we all could get. But yeah.
I have Signal because I was looking for drug dealers in a city I'm not in.
Oh, boy.
That's what Signal's actually used for.
Okay. Well, it's also used for political security and anonymity. So I have Signal.
So I was going to, before we get into this, somebody did make a very good point about them dealing on Signal and how, because it's end-to-end encryption, there's no record of the conversation. It's like, if their phones get subpoenaed, they're not going to be able to pull anything off of the conversation that we're having on Signal. So that kind of makes me nervous that you're telling me it's very normal for politicians to be dealing on essentially Snapchat for grown-ups.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, I don't really understand how this is more secure, because I'm like, yeah, I have my whole history of everything that's going on Signal right here. So if someone took my phone, you would get all my Signal stuff. There is there's a PIN code that they ask for often, but not always.
I don't know. From what the way I remember Signal working is that texts are automatically deleted after X amount of time. And it's like that it only exists on that thread, and once it's gone, even Signal doesn't have the transcript.
That might be true, but I still.
But yeah, that's a little chilling to me if that is.
So I'm let me look back. I haven't had it that long, but I have messages from as early as March 13th. It looks like. I don't remember when I first downloaded this. Wait, maybe I do. I think I first downloaded it on March 4th, but I don't know that I used it before March 13th or 14th. But, it seems...
So I'm reading here, Signal has a feature. Anything sent within 3 hours has a delete for everyone option. So, it's like a texting platform that doesn't have any kind of central record. And the moment, once everyone's received the message, responded to it, you can just hit delete for everyone.
Oh, but you have to manually do that.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
I have that article here.
Cool. Okay, so this is from the Atlantic. And here are the attack plans that Trump's advisors shared on Signal. The administration has downplayed the importance of the text messages inadvertently sent to the Atlantic's editor-in-chief. So that's why I wanted to read it from the Atlantic. Scrolly. Little picture. Loving it. Okay. So, about the Signal chat. On Monday, shortly after we published a story about a massive Trump administration security breach, a reporter asked the, oh, wait, you know what? Can you just read this for me? Because this is where I have to strain my eyes and it's just like not worth it.
Okay. On Monday, shortly after we published a story about a massive Trump administration security breach, a reporter asked Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth why he had shared plans about a forthcoming attack on Yemen on the Signal messaging app. He answered, "Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that." So that's the official statement. And then
That's all I have to say about that.
and that's that about that. At a Senate hearing yesterday, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and the Director of CIA, John Ratcliffe, were both asked about the Signal chat, to which Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, was inadvertently added by National Security Advisor Michael Waltz. There was no classified information that was shared in that Signal group, Gabbard told members of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Ratcliffe said the same. My communications, to be clear, in the Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information. President Donald Trump, asked yesterday afternoon about the same matter, said it wasn't classified information. These statements presented us with a dilemma. In the Atlantic's initial story about the Signal chat, the Houthi PC small group, as it was named by Waltz, we withheld specific information related to weapons and to timing of attacks that we found in certain texts. As a general rule, we do not publish information about military operations if that information could possibly jeopardize the lives of U.S. personnel.
Fair.
That is why we chose to characterize the nature of the information being shared, not specific details about the attacks. The statements by Hegseth, Gabbard, Ratcliffe, and Trump, combined with the assertions made by numerous administration officials that we are lying about the content of the Signal text, have led us to believe that people should see the text in order to reach their own conclusions. There is a clear public interest in disclosing the sort of information that Trump advisors included in non-secure communications channels, especially because senior administration figures are attempting to downplay the significance of the messages that were shared. Experts have repeatedly told us that use of a Signal chat for such sensitive discussions poses a threat to national security. As a case in point, Goldberg received information on the attacks 2 hours before the scheduled start of the bombing in Houthi positions. If this information, particularly the exact times American aircraft were taking off for Yemen, had fallen into the wrong hands in that crucial 2-hour period, American pilots and other American personnel could have been exposed to even greater danger than they ordinarily would face. The Trump administration is arguing that the military information contained in these texts was not classified as it typically would be, although the president has not explained how he reached this conclusion. Yesterday, we asked officials across the Trump administration if they objected to us publishing the text. In emails to the CIA, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the National Security Council, and Department of Defense, and the White House, we wrote, in part, in light of statements today from multiple administration officials, including before the Senate Intelligence Committee, that the information in the Signal chain about the Houthi strike is not classified and that it does not contain war plans, the Atlantic is considering publishing the entirety of the Signal chain.
I love that they're putting their foot down on this lie so hard that they're like, yeah, why don't you just post it? Because it's like not war plans. Like, I know it seems like it's war plans, but like it's not. So just like post it. We dare you.
Bet you won't. We sent our first request for comment and feedback to the national security officials shortly after noon and followed up in the evening after most failed to answer. Late yesterday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt emailed a response. As we have repeatedly stated, there was no classified information transmitted in the group chat. However, as the CIA director and NSA advisor have both... as the CIA director and national security advisor have both expressed today, that does not mean we encourage the release of the conversation. This was intended to be an internal and private deliberation amongst high-level senior staff, and sensitive information was discussed. So for those reasons, yes, we object to the release. The Leavitt statement did not address which elements of the text the White House considered sensitive or how, more than a week after the initial airstrikes, their publication could have bearing on national security. A CIA spokesperson asked us to withhold the name of John Ratcliffe's chief of staff, which Ratcliffe had shared in the Signal chain, because CIA intelligence officers traditionally not publicly identified. Ratcliffe had testified earlier yesterday that the officer is not undercover and said it was completely appropriate to share the name in the Signal conversation. We will continue to withhold the name of the officer. Otherwise, the messages are unredacted. As we wrote on Monday, much of the conversation in the Houthi small group concerned the timing and rationale of attacks on the Houthis and contained remarks by Trump administration officials about the alleged shortcomings of America's European allies. But on the day of the attack, Saturday, March 15th, the discussion veered towards the operational. At 11:44 a.m. Eastern Time, Hegseth posted in the chat in all caps, "Team update." The text beneath this began, "Time now, 11:44 ET. The weather is favorable. Just confirm with CENTCOM that we are go for mission launch." CENTCOM, or Central Command, is the military's combatant command for the Middle East. The Hegseth text continues, 12:15 ET, F-18s launch first strike package. 13:45, trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch MQ-9s. Let us pause here for a moment to underscore a point. This signal message shows that the U.S. Secretary of Defense texted a group that included a phone number unknown to him, Goldberg's cell phone, at 11:44 a.m. This was 31 minutes before the first U.S. warplanes launched, and 2 hours and 1 minute before the beginning of the period in which a primary target, the Houthi target terrorist, was expected to be killed by these American aircraft. If this text had been received by someone hostile to American interests or someone merely indiscreet and with access to social media, the Houthis would have time to prepare what was meant to be a surprise attack on their strongholds. The consequences of the American pilots could have been catastrophic. The Hegseth text continues. 14:10, more F-18s launch. Sorry, I'm getting
a signal chat from Pete Hegseth.
I am getting a signal chat from Pete Hegseth. More F-18s launch second strike package. Strike drone 14:15. Strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop. Pending earlier trigger-based targets. 15:36, F-18 second strike starts. Also, first C Tomahawks launch. More to follow, per timeline. We are currently clean on OPSEC, that is operational security. Godspeed to our warriors.
Oh, boy.
I mean, hitting the Godspeed to our warriors in a secret group chat of just highly classified people. Dude, you knew this was going to the Atlantic. Shut up. Shortly after Vice President J.D. Vance...
Performative.
Yeah, 100%. Shortly after Vice President J.D. Vance texted the group, "I will say a prayer for victory." Come on, man.
Oh, my God.
At 1:48 p.m., Waltz sent the following text containing real-time intelligence about conditions at an attack site, apparently in Sana'a. VP building collapsed, had multiple positive ID. Pete Karula, the IC, amazing job. Waltz was referring here to Hegseth, General Michael E. Karula, the commander of the Central Command and the Intelligence Community, or IC. The reference to multiple positive IDs suggests the U.S. intelligence had ascertained the identities of the Houthi target or targets using either human or technical assets. 6 minutes later, the vice president, apparently confused by Waltz's message, wrote, "What?" At 2 p.m., Waltz responded, "Typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy, we had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and now it collapsed." Whoa! They took out the whole building?
Whoa.
Bro, it's like that scene in The Godfather when the guy's Gumar gets shot down because he just happened to be in the wrong place, wrong time.
It's exactly like that.
Oh, that's insane. Vance responded a minute later, "Excellent." 35 minutes after that, Ratcliffe, the CIA director, wrote, "A good start," which Waltz followed with a text containing a fist emoji, an American flag emoji, and a fire emoji.
Oh, my God.
These guys are running the country.
I know, and people are asking me if I'm qualified to be mayor of New York City. Overqualified, maybe.
I don't think you've sent me a text of all emojis in 5 years.
Thank you. Corinne Fisher for mayor of New York City.
The Houthi-run ministry reported that at least 53 people were killed in the strikes, a number that has not been independently verified. Later that afternoon, Hegseth posted, "CENTCOM was/is on point." Notably, he then told the group that attacks would be continuing. "Great job all. More airstrikes ongoing for hours tonight, and we will provide full initial report tomorrow, but on time, on target, and good readouts so far." It's still unclear why a journalist was added to the text exchange. Waltz, who invited Goldberg into the signal chat, said yesterday that he was investigating how to check he got into this room. And then here's all of the text. Yeah, I'm assuming we're not going to read all of them.
No, but thank you.
I hit the big ones.
Yeah, just fascinating. Very fascinating week in news. I'm on the edge of my seat with everything. Yeah, I don't think there's that to me is the main story of the week. I mean, there's so many, but there's no. That's just kind of the Atlantic reported it as it is because it went directly to the editor in chief. So there's not really another side to the story. It just is what it is.
There is 100% another side to the story.
What, that it's a complete it's a little play that they're doing, or that they paid the Atlantic to make this?
I don't think they paid the Atlantic. I think that if you include the editor of the Atlantic in a text chain that seems like this is sensitive material that he's getting, then he's going to run with it and publish it. And the overwhelming, the stuff that they didn't cover in this Atlantic article, the big thing I saw from those texts was Vance and, others intimating that POTUS does not believe Europe is doing enough to handle business in Europe. Something that Trump has been echoing, from even before his inauguration, right? That
so they wanted the Atlantic to report that, or they knew that they wouldn't?
They knew that the Atlantic would. I mean, it's in the text messages. The text messages have gone everywhere. I've seen it. The big takeaway from this whole thing was not this. I just found out that who was killed in the operation. I had no clue. The only thing I did know is that they were strongly criticizing Europe and the EU for their defense of Europe and why America was doing this, what America could do to recoup the money and American lives that they're putting on the line.
Was this planned? Signal leak. Let's see if anyone has a story about that.
It's just you have Signal. You know that, he would have had to have typed in every single individual number in the guy's number to get him into this Signal chat.
Well, I was wondering, maybe it was saved under a different name, or when they maybe whatever his first name was, he meant to put another person of that first name in there. I mean,
sure.
But so I'm just saying, no one's has an article that's saying that it's not a mistake, except for Fox News, who's saying it was not. We weren't texting war plans. And it was not classified information, but that's the only kind of counterpoint that I'm actually seeing in any major news source. But, on Girl.Corner, maybe you're the first person to break this information.
I mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to go interview the guy who sent the text message and be like, "Hey, did you mean for it to go public?" It's no, I'm just a guy with a rational brain presenting that it's insane that of all the people you could have accidentally invited to this group, you invited the one guy who you knew would publish these texts to the most people possible.
You think if you're gonna add someone to the group chat, you're going Atlantic? You're not going.
I mean, I feel like the editor-in-chief of the New York Times is a little too on the nose.
Oh, he went alt. All right, so maybe what you're saying, Pete Hegseth, genius.
No, it's this Walls guy, right?
Oh, right. Well, I think, but it's Pete Hegseth who's the one who's getting in the most trouble.
Yeah, well, he's the one who's sending all caps about we are go for this time. We will be, and it's you're literally texting that to a number you don't know.
When you were reading it, it reminded me of when I was the head of mission control in space camp. That was the energy. Oh my God. All right, guys. Well, what a fantastic episode. I had fun. I hope you did too. There was some highs, there were some lows, there were some laughs, there was some sadness. Take
a deep breath.
I needed that. That felt good. I hope you all can take a deep breath. Thank you so much for joining me. Continue following the campaign at Corinne Fisher for Mayor on Instagram if you're not already following me. Obviously CorinneFisher.com to donate, to volunteer, to learn more about my platforms. There's also a submission form if you're a New York City resident to tell me about things that would make New York City better for you. And tell a friend or relative in New York City to throw $10 to my campaign for your upcoming birthday, or they can't donate on behalf of you, but they can donate in honor of you. And don't you forget that. It has to be on their own free will, though, for themselves with their own money. Legally, what are you looking at me like that for, Mike? That's legal.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. I'm saying listen, you're an outsider. You got to play by the rules.
Of course.
In a way that people who aren't outsiders don't have to. But
Well,
possessions,
this is my mistake the whole time. I've been playing by the rules, and then I keep learning ways that other people are getting around the rules, and I go, "Are you kidding?" This is my whole life, though. My whole life. I got out of it as like an adult, but now I find it's like almost like I'm like repeating my childhood because this is the same reason that I didn't meet Baby Spice, that I didn't get a picture with Baby Spice Emma Bunton, and I brought up this story before. And it was because I followed the rules, because they said at a certain point in this line, we're not doing pictures anymore because Emma doesn't have that much time. And I put my camera away because I followed the rules. And then I got to meet Emma, but I didn't get a picture with her. And the person after me just didn't follow the rules and asked Emma directly for a picture. And of course, she said yes. And I go, wow, the lesson learned, do not play by the rules anymore, because then you will end up without a picture with Baby Spice Emma Bunton. And I think that's a story that really people can use in their own lives.
well, hopefully you take that into this mayoral race.
I'm
just saying,
gonna tell that story. That's gonna be my anecdote.
possession is 9/10 of the law. So if someone ends up with money and then it gets donated to Corinne, that's your money that you donated to Corinne.
What?
I'm just saying.
Nothing. That the Corinne Fisher for mayor campaign is not associated with my character.
Yeah, I don't work for the campaign in any respect.
He doesn't.
So I can say whatever I want.
I guess. Oh my God. But yeah, no, I've been playing by the rules the whole dang time. Ugh, what a fucking idiot, I guess. You know, next time someone asks me or accuses me of not being qualified for being mayor, I'm gonna be like, you're right. I keep following the fucking law.
Woo!
Like a dumbass. All right, guys, that's the show for today. Again, head over to CorinneFisher.com to donate, to volunteer. Tell a friend in New York City to donate just $10. Really appreciate it. Mike, do you have anything that you want to promote?
Yeah, Fifth Company Brewing on April the 5th, and then Micro Wrestling at Fifth Company Brewing April the 4th. Going to be absolutely incredible.
Also, two things not associated with the Corinne Fisher for Mayor campaign.
I don't know. Did you see how many people are at these micro events? You might want to get associated.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. All right, guys. Make sure to subscribe to Without a Country on YouTube and follow Without a Country podcast on Instagram. We do a little pre-show on Instagram Live every week before I come here into studio. So that's what you're missing if you are not following me there on Instagram. Thanks for being a part of this. Keep critically thinking. Keep engaging in local politics. And make sure that you vote in the upcoming municipal elections in your town, city, state, community, whatever is going on. It's important. It does matter. Don't get exhausted, because you really do. You know, you're the people. You have the power. That's it. I will talk to you next week. Bye. Peace.